Okay, overview of Zoom meeting operations, procedures, rules of participation. Use your microphone if you're on here. If you're on Zoom, you'll be recognized by the chair. We're all wearing hats at this, so we should get this for these. Public forum, anybody wants to speak? It's thing that's not on the agenda. Okay. Department head roundtable. Why don't you go first? You're here.
We fared out fairly well over the storm. The roads are all opened up. We just got to go back through and clean up the stuff on the side of the road that, got cut and just pushed off to get the road open. So that's what we started today. Driscoll's is over. They started Pine Street drainage today.
I saw this loader keep going down the street with big pipe. He did have a wide load side.
I just think the whole road.
You did.
So they started that today. Yeah, they got probably a little over 300 feet of pipe.
Well, you mentioned that as they get closer to Pine Street, the road is going to need to be closed.
Yes, when they put the structures in, we're going to close Pine Street.
Which could be Wednesday, starting Wednesday?
Let's see, tomorrow they're putting in the one in Jackman Drive. That'll take probably probably a good 3/4 of the day. Gotta run the pipe up, so probably Wednesday would be the earliest.
And you think it might go till Friday and possibly
Definitely go till Friday and then possibly Monday and Tuesday of next week.
They closing the whole road or just Pine Street from one point to one?
The section.
So Pine Street from north to
Taylor?
So it won't be the whole road.
Did you have a ditch vent mower in?
Did you do that one where? Some of it was this Van more. Other spots was boom. I had baggers come in.
Yeah.
Boom. So they did over the guardrails, and they did a few other spots to get the brush and stuff back.
It looks good, actually.
Their price was the same as with an operator that I could rent one for. So I figured if I could get an operator with it, might as well keep our guys going something else and have them.
Makes good sense. Okay. Anything else? Did I understand last week? Big Hill building.
Yes. Check all that. I did check on the narrow spot over at the other end of Atkins Road where it comes on to Lincoln Road, and that's going to have to be lights also.
Because it's too narrow to accommodate two-way traffic.
Can't pass.
Just at the end?
Yeah, from where the pavement is to that first house on the left or the right.
And that would only be during when the bridge is the
Right.
detour.
Just during the detour time. Not the whole time, just while they're working on it.
Oh, okay.
And the grinding is going to be 22nd and 23rd of this month.
Both places.
Yeah, they'll do one road one day and then do the other one the next day.
Starting with Pine and then Lincoln?
I'm going to see if I can get them started on Pine first. Yes.
And when was that?
22nd and 23rd.
Okay.
Anything else? We got plenty. Thank you.
Unless we talked, did I miss anything?
Well, with Lincoln Road, and we're still trying to decide at what point to close Lincoln Road for the two different projects, the riverbank restoration projects, since they're so far apart. The entire length between them doesn't need to be closed, but just one section here and one section there when the time comes. But we're going to try to schedule a pre-construction meeting with the engineer, the contractor, and ourselves to work out those details. And Mastersons is planning to start their work the first week of September, so we really need to do this next week.
The problem with keeping more of the road open is there's no place to turn around.
I was just gonna
Right.
say, there's nowhere to go.
If we close it at Eden Park, they can turn around at Eden Park, and if we close it at the bottom, they can turn around at the bottom. If
Right.
we close it anywhere else, we're gonna get a bottleneck.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that Ellen and I were talking about is, and this is just, we were just throwing stuff back and forth, is, you know, once they're done for the night, if they could have one lane open for, you know, ambulance going to Lincoln, if Bristol has to, mutual aid, they wouldn't have to go up Briggs Hill through the light. But I don't know how much of the road Basses are gonna dig up, right, until we have talked to them. I didn't know if they could just use that while not, you know, while they're not working. So maybe on
There's no-
the nights.
There's no way to block the road while they're not working that is gonna make it accessible to emergency vehicles, because like with 17, people are just.
People are just.
Right,
they
just go on.
Yeah,
And
it was.
Close it and have it closed. It's the safest way.
And hopefully with it being closed, it'll get everything done quicker. Yeah, fewer interferences.
Okay. Bruce, I see you up there. Got anything for us?
Yes, good evening. Just a reminder that this Saturday, Pocock Rocks will be having their event. So Main Street will be closed from North Street to Mountain Street. According to the flyer, it says it closes at noon. I thought in years past we closed at 1, but so between noon and 1 o'clock, the street will close down so they can set up for the event. And it goes until 9 o'clock that night. So other than that, I just have one thing that I want to thank Sergeant Andrew Graham for the great job he did dealing with an individual. I think it was Thursday. All these days are running in together. It was either Thursday or Friday. We were dealing with a person with a cognitive disability, and he spent a good hour and a half being patient, explaining to the person the processes that we were trying to assist them with. And eventually we had to arrest the person, but he took an extreme amount of time, patience, explaining thoroughly to the person. So it ended where we weren't wrestling with somebody, and we were able to resolve the situation and get them the help that they needed. So he did an outstanding job.
Okay.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Bruce. Anything else, Bruce, for the good order? That it? All set? Is that it? Okay.
Yeah, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see anybody else.
Mark, you got Mark.
Mark
you
and
got
Meredith are here.
Yeah, well,
Meredith, you
I-
got Chris, you got Sharon.
I looked up there. Can I?
It was hard to, if I could interject, it was hard to hear when Joel started about the public comment, but I'm gonna, if I may, reserve comment on the skate park proposal.
Okay. Good. You have anything for the listener's office?
No, well, I can speak to that. We have lodged the grand list. So that's our final step. And the RFP, and great thanks to Valerie for her fine tuning of the rough document. She added her expertise to it. It has been posted onto the state website. We did a short block ad in the Addy Indy indicating that RFPs are due sometime mid-September. I don't remember the exact date. The
September
pre-bid,
9th.
pardon? I'm sorry,
September
Val.
9th.
December. Yeah,
September 19th.
yeah. See, she's so much younger than me and her memory's better. But I do remember that August 29th is a pre-bid meeting for those interested vendors or assessors that wish to come in and have questions or whatever. So
That's for a townwide reappraisal for the public, right?
so, yeah, and then I think sometime in October, Valerie, was your estimated timeline that if our reviewing and vetting the proposals hopefully would be before the select board for final approval.
Well,
that-
depending on the outcome on the 19th, they could be ready for select board review at the select board's meeting on the 23rd in September.
Right. So that could be the earliest, and maybe early October would be board action with regards to awarding the bid. And then we wait in line. Unfortunately, it's probably a process that's going to be out there. At least I'm estimating 3 years. So, So that's
All
it
right.
from the Lister's office.
All right, thank you.
I have a
Okay.
question, I have a question for Mark. Mark, can you tell us, what kind of change in the grand list numbers from last year? Was there any significant growth?
There was I won't say significant overall, certainly the addition of All Earth Renewables, and Firehouse Apartments. Actually, that may be a little bit lower because now they're falling under the HUD formula, whereas last year, because they were not fully up and running, then we assessed it on the value. That's something that ALF had done. But a lot of projects, many of them small, an addition here, a porch and a garage. It takes time, but that exact number, I apologize, I don't have it in front of me, but we'll get it for you.
Okay, thanks.
You will be setting the tax rate next meeting,
That's right, yeah, we'll be setting the tax rate next meeting.
because that's leads right into Sharon, right? Sharon, go ahead.
Well, this week it's election. That's my life this week.
Yeah. Okay, so Meredith?
Well, so Zach moved on July 3rd, so, just been holding down the fort with help from Taylor and a few key volunteers in the community. We are on our last camp, mountain bike camp this week. And what's pretty cool is we've added a few new programs. So Bristol Youth Sports, we're still going. We've got soccer, it's locked down, almost 100 kids in that. We've opened up the fall field hockey with Jen Myers over at Mount Aid. We've got Taekwondo coming back from Master Kelly Thomas from Middlebury for Jens. And we're starting a kids theater group in the Holland Hall. So all that is new. So it's been pretty exciting. So everything's on the up and up. And then the next thing on the list is, obviously Pocock, but then the Harvest Fest, which we partner with the Addison County Chamber of Commerce. And that's a pretty big event. Thousands of people come to Bristol to go to that. So that's exciting. And that's it.
I have a question.
Sure, Valerie.
How's the recruitment coming along?
Pretty good. Have a few interviews lined up. So we're pretty excited about that. It's hard only because running bike camps and then running over here. So
We're not really looking at a lot of resumes until next
Right.
week.
yeah,
Yeah.
there are a few key people I want to be able to approach and see if they're possibly a good fit.
Excellent, thanks.
Chris, you wanna give us any update, or maybe a little bit of zoning on your last stand? I know you don't do that anymore. but-
No, yeah, I mean,
You
pretty
covered
much,
that off?
the transition is going great, actually. AZ comes and asks questions when needed, but for the most part, running great. That's about it, zoning wise. And then it's been all numbers since, so.
Well, actually, we've been following up from Denise, is that, that's her name, right? Darlene's meeting with the select board, and so they've been, he and Sharon have been working on the accounts and working on that, and just trying to tidy up, and he's also been spending quite a lot of time on the water rates review, and kind of trying to come up with an updated structure for the water rates, which will be on the select board's next agenda. Great.
And we have Darlene coming at the end of the month for 3 days for training, so.
Taylor, I'll get you here, you wanna give us a kind of a hub up?
Yeah, and
That's
I'd
right.
like to also so I'm gonna give an update when it comes to it, but at this moment I was talking to Ian earlier, I'm gonna pull back my request for additional $60,000 ARPA funds. Just before we get there. We talk about it more later. But hub updates, we've been open this summer. We did just get, I don't know if anyone went to Martin's during July and that you could round up to the hub. So we got just shy of $5,000 from Martin's.
Sweet.
Yeah, so it's going to, because they had to give it to a 501c3, it's gonna go to United Way of Addison County, and then they're going to send us separate money, three-way.
You could've sent it to the town.
What's up?
They could have sent it to the town, couldn't they?
No, they needed to partner with a 501c3.
How they do that in the fire?
They have a,
Fire department.
they have a designated 501c3,
Yeah.
the fire department does.
Like a friend.
Yeah, But so that's really exciting. It was really lovely that, that was something Martin reached out to us and asked about doing that. So it was really wonderful, for that support and connecting with them. It's been great. And then we just, been, doing drop-in hours, running camps, and, thinking about the skate park a lot.
Okay, consent agenda. Approval of driveway access permit application 2024 to DA for Carl and Ed Shepherd at 2025 North Street for a 25-foot wide driveway per public works finding recommendations and conditions. Number 2, approve a community celebration event on the town green hosted by the Addison Housing Works Friday, September 13th, 4 to 8 p.m. Approval of proposed Jackman's pre-buy fuel contracts for Holly Hall, the fire station, town garage, pottery kiln, pottery meter, pump house, and hub teen center. Approval of number 4, approval of issue of a letter of support for Tandem's grant application to the Regional Economic Development Grant Program for improvements to their space on Main Street.
So moved.
Second.
I have questions.
There's motion and a second. Okay, there's motion and second and questions. Michelle, go ahead.
I'll do a couple of these ones. On a pre-buy, do we ever consider just doing pay as we use? I mean, I know it makes the budgeting easier, but I'm just curious, did we have that good of a deal on the pre-buy? No.
Sharon,
This is for LP only.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only for propane,
Mhm.
and I don't know what the running rate is
Yeah.
for propane.
Because we are refunded, correct?
Yeah, we
Well,
get
that's
a
okay.
refund if we don't spend it.
Right,
Sometimes you get it cheaper though.
right.
I know.
That was, it was just a
It's always
question.
gamble.
Right. I mean, for
And
budgeting
on
wise,
that-
it's
and On
better.
that subject, Sharon did verify the corrected number in the allocation and also verified that we are not eligible for a fuel exemption, tax
Exemptions.
exemption. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
I
wanted to
figured we
double
were.
check.
My other question is on the tandem grant. If they get the grant, does the town have to administer it?
No.
So we don't have to.
No,
do
it's
that.
just a letter of support.
Yeah, but if they get the grant,
It's.
Yeah.
it
it's
doesn't have to
outside
go through the
town.
town. Okay.
Yeah.
This is, oh, you have a question, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's it for that one. I have another question about.
On the tandem grant, it's, that's the space at the end of that Rockwood Third, Sherry and
Correct.
Paul own, correct?
Yeah, the village corner store.
Okay.
My last question is on the celebration event, the community celebration again. I was looking at the perimeter for the alcohol, which seems huge. I still have concerns about the food trucks being on West Street, but so if they have the perimeter around there, people that want food have to come out, leave their drinks or can't have drinks, come out, go back in. What are they doing with kids? They're gonna be all intermixed in there as well and that.
So I work for Addison. I'm Michelle with Addison Housing Works, and we will have 7 volunteers who will be walking around.
Mhm.
3 focused on the entrance, and people who are 21 over will be riding a bike sled. And they're going to be ID by the Bobcat.
And the perimeter is gonna have either a fence or ribbon or something or
Yeah,
other
so
around
we'll
it.
have hay bales with rope as well as lights. And also no alcohol beyond this point.
Right.
Signs all around
Mhm.
to make sure that no one exits.
And did you decide the food trucks on West Street was better than on Park Street? Because I know we go back and forth on whether they want them on West Street or Park Street, but.
It was recommended by the Bobcat because that's how they've seen
been
it
doing it.
before, so we went with what,
Okay.
And you can see how it works, because there's one out there right now.
I know, it's
just right there.
Yeah, it's right on the,
In front.
and the crosswalk.
And,
Yeah.
and the handicap park.
And then-
I think Bruce talked to Sarah as well. It's been talked about.
But the food was really good, I have to say, I ate there.
Who's,
Tonight?
who's,
That way,
It's La
at least you
Chapina.
know
Yeah,
people
it's
know
Guatemalan.
if
La
somebody else
Chapina,
is
it's
complaining
the
as well.
Guatemalan, they just got the food truck.
Yeah.
They were just like a stand out on the farmer's market, they just got a food truck, which is really exciting.
And it was very good.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
is that where you got your sandwich from the last time you had?
No, that was a
Nice.
barbecue sandwich. Additional question for the alcohol area. From my experience at Poke Rock Rocks, we or CORE posted people that would sit either at the entry or the exit. Is that your plan? You talked about having volunteers, but are they walking around?
they're going to be walking around the entrances to
Okay.
the alcohol
Okay.
permit areas. And we'll have 7 total.
Okay.
So people are gonna switch out, of course, but we're gonna have absolutely 3 people.
Okay.
Who are walking those
Yeah,
areas.
because people will try to leave. I mean, I
Mhm.
know that a couple years ago when the Bobcat was doing their food event on Mondays, which then sort of turned into the farmer's market. That was one of the issues too. Even though they had a roped off area, people just expect to sort of be able to walk around thinking, oh, it's the whole area of the park. So it's just something to be aware of.
Big enough
Right,
so
exactly.
that
So you-
they'll stay in
yes.
that perimeter.
Yeah. Okay. No, that sounds great. Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like fun.
So, any more questions on the 4 proposals?
Any discussion on the driveway access? Looks like Eric, you have your notes on that application. Do we have any concerns in terms of how 25 feet wide, is that a normal driveway access? It seems large, but maybe I'm not experienced
That's what
enough.
you asked for, right?
Okay,
That's what.
You need it wide enough at the mouth
For the
of the road.
trucks.
It can go down as soon as it gets in, but it
Okay.
needs to be
but
wide enough.
that's
at the
that's a
mouth of the
standard
road.
size,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Just for, down the road, he was talking about possibly, putting up a garage to put his, stone cutting equipment in.
Yeah,
And if he's gotta have fuel for heat, it's so they can back in and not run over the end of the culverts or the end of the
Okay.
driveway, whatever it
Okay.
may be.
all right, but that's a standard size.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay.
Great, thank you.
all approved. Regular business, public hearing, Bristol capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2025, 2020 through 2030.
Well, as I alerted folks, the document itself is still a work in progress. I made a lot of progress today though, but not enough to distribute ahead of time. So what I can do is share with you what I have done somewhat. If I can find it. Let's see, I need to.
Given that we didn't get it beforehand, do you just want to do similar to what you did last time, was just do an overview of it?
Yes.
I think it's gonna be, I worry about the amount of time that we could spend on it since none of us have seen the document.
Right, I
Or
agree.
we've only seen it.
I agree.
The last meeting.
That's exactly what I was
Okay.
planning to do, if I can just find the right
Okay.
screen to share. Well, that's right, I'm in Word. So what I just want to quickly show you is some of the progress I've made on the, at least the narrative. So I'm still compiling the recent capital improvements. So I'm still working on that, which I think when it's all said and done, is going to be pretty impressive about the many capital projects the town has undertaken in recent years. I'm still working on some of the departmental things, but
How far back have you gone with previous projects?
not that long. I mean, you can go way
Right.
far back, and that's not productive.
No, I'm just
Like
curious
the
what.
last 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Since the plan is typically a 5-year plan,
Right.
5 to 6 year plan, I think that's an appropriate window. And it's also, that's when we have the most information
Right.
available, but there's just a lot of it. And that's been part of the problem, or not problem, but challenge. So I'm updating the narrative about the police department, identifying the deficiencies in the limited space. The fact that we have undertaken facilities analysis. We did two,
Yeah.
one at the Public Works facility and then behind the fire station. And this kind of narrative will be helpful going forward, just for context, for historic context, to remind people of the level of effort that has gone into a lot of these different type of projects. And once it's kind of put on paper, you don't have to do it again. And then I'm plan to include recommendations such as, in this case, conduct an updated analysis of the opportunities and impacts of expanding the police district townwide. Then put the question to the police district put the question to police district and town voters whether the police district should be expanded townwide. Depending on the outcome of that townwide vote, determine the schematic facility design to move forward through the additional design and development and permitting, and then ultimately seek voter approval to bond for construction of a new facility. So that's just a quick synopsis of where we are with that particular project in a nutshell.
Well, so for number 2.
Yeah.
Wouldn't the depending on the outcome be perhaps not building a facility?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Although.
They need a facility regardless.
Right.
Something, yeah.
But could we
We could
just-
scale it down.
Yeah,
right, but
yeah.
you would keep, can we keep renting? The
Maybe.
reason I ask, because if you vote townwide and it doesn't go townwide, then it's the district.
We can vote as long
That-
as Kevin allows us to vote, or
Yeah.
allows us to rent. Because if he sells the building,
No, I know.
we may not have that.
So.
Yeah, I
so-
guess I worry about the
Yeah.
cost of that distributed between a
Right,
very small group
right.
of people.
Well, too.
Yeah,
Well, and the cost continues to climb.
Right, I know.
I think I just heard something, but I'm not sure. Somebody might have said something.
That's
Oh, it's okay. Okay, gotcha. So anyway, I'll make a note there to look into that, but that's an example of what this document is trying to accomplish. And I'm also working on the Public Works facility, trying to summarize the previous analysis and the purchase of the Hewitt Road property and provide some recommendations. And one of the things I'm going to mention is information about the current status of the gravel pit and the fact that it's got a limited life. So I want to put in this document and give everybody a heads up, the fact that we're going to have to come up with some other plan at some point. And we're going to have to talk about that. Also sewer. So I'm working through that. So I'll stop sharing that because that's really about the gist of it and on that one. And I've been working more on the table, which is where a lot of the meat is also going to be. And using current figures, for example, on capital building and maintenance fund, I'm including the presentation from tonight about the energy assessments, energy efficiency assessments. And if we're going to include those projects into this capital plan, I've listed them here, along with the anticipated 100% funding for that. So that's an example of the kind of projects we can include. And I've also added a new section from the last time of just general funds, stuff that we're funding through the general fund that are not going through the reserve funds. For example, we submitted an application today for that speed limit and traffic study that the Addison County Regional Planning Commission could provide 100% of funding for, but yet we have to pay for it first and then get reimbursed. But it's still, this reflects an initiative that the town is undertaking with grant funds. And again, with the accessible parks design listing, acknowledging that, but acknowledging that its funding is coming from the ARPA funding. And we've got VTrans grant funding for culvert work, grant funding for the hazard mitigation plan update that's currently underway, and some other works, and the tree removal projects, the trimming and replanting. And so making some progress there. And then also I'll be beefing up the police department, water department, and the sewer department. The water department part has not yet been updated to reflect the Pine Street, the different 1905 water line replacements. And I think where we might want to spend some attention at some point, if not tonight, then definitely the next meeting is, Joel, I added on the capital sidewalks fund, the West Pleasant Street sidewalk. I don't know the length yet, but it's going to be on the list for the next, to be done among the next batch of sidewalk replacements.
If you want to walk it this week, I'm off this week. I'll bring my wheel, we can measure.
I may.
Give me a holler.
Okay. I've got my wheel in the other room too.
Okay.
But the Capital Roads Fund, and we have a lot of projects going on, and this is where there's a lot of concerns about how we're going to pay for it all. And Briggs Hill is obviously an open question right now. Right now, it's coming out of the general fund, but we do expect to get some reimbursement from FEMA and the state on this. This shows the Pine Street drainage and I don't think Munsell Avenue is included in this yet, but this is where we're putting all that stuff and projecting it out. And at the moment, we are showing $137,000 in the hole from the resources that we have out of that reserve fund. And projecting forward, it doesn't get any better going forward. And so we do have some options. One of which I'm pointing out is to use some proportion, if not all, of the remaining ARPA funding to help bridge that gap. As I noted in my report, that another option is short-term borrowing. I know that it's not the ideal solution, but it is an option, and the town does have a debt management policy that I posted on the website that acknowledges that sometimes short-term borrowing is necessary, but to done on a very sparing way. And state statute allows municipalities to borrow for very certain types of short-term borrowing without voter approval for up to 5 years for things like infrastructure, transportation improvements. So I just wanted to point that out. Another option going forward, we're pretty confident, I think we can be pretty confident that at the end of each fiscal year, we have some level of undesignated fund balance, because more often than not, revenues, or I should say expenses, do not exceed revenues. Often because we are conservative in our spending, we tend to budget conservatively and not spend as much as we budget, but the revenues tend to be kind of healthy, especially from outside sources. So we can plan to knock off that deficit over time with designating undesignated fund balance to pay it off. So I just want to put that out there as options, that it's not, seeing this number shouldn't be too scary. We have options. And then on this.
Could I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So if we use the ARPA money, it would only address the deficit in fiscal year 2025. Those
what I would recommend,
nothing's rolling over, right?
If the select board does choose that option, and depending on the amount available at that time the decision is made, and if there is no other commitments to it, I would recommend putting the entire thing in the capital roads program reserve fund, because there's plenty of need, and it's there, it's allocated, it's done, it's spent, it's pretty much spent. So that would be my recommendation if there are no other claims on it when we get to that point.
But it would only address one of those negative balances. So like in fiscal year 2026, we would then need to borrow.
No, not necessarily, because once it's in the reserve fund, it's in the reserve fund. And if you see
We're only
that,
137 in the hole now.
right,
It would
so
be
if you
249.
you put the
whatever.
whole thing in there.
What I was trying to figure out though is these negative balances, they're not being carried over from fiscal year to fiscal year. These are new deficits.
Well, no,
each
let me
fiscal year.
let me show you.
No.
Let me show you how it works. Put that in, and boom, the deficit goes away.
Not only for 2 years.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. That's very helpful.
Sure.
I just want to know, is it a long-term fix, a short-term fix? Like what kind of fix
Yeah,
is it?
it's a beautiful fix, actually. So I just wanted to put that out there. And the other thing, while we're on the topic of infrastructure and looking at this range of infrastructure, and there are probably others that should be added to this list, just put the idea out there of a local options tax. Many municipalities around the state have done it of one form or another. There are a lot of different options. It can be, a small piece, or it could be multiple elements to a local options tax. And the select board could, or voters could earmark it solely for infrastructure, or infrastructure and community and economic development. So those funds would be specifically targeted for these kinds of investments, and it would be non-taxpayer dollars. And it would not be coming out of the pockets of merchants or the property owners. It'd be coming from the wallets of the customers. And speaking for myself, when I'm a patron at places that have the local options tax, and I look at the invoice, it doesn't bother me at all if I have to pay an extra 22 cents on my grocery bill in Montpelier, or 6 cents on something else in Williston, or even 33 cents on something else in Burlington. It's just, it doesn't matter. And I don't think, not to me, and I don't think it influences the purchasing decisions that people make when they go out.
So I don't have a choice, so.
Well, if they did, well, they do. They could choose not to go there.
No.
But
I mean, they'd have to choose not to go to Williston or Burlington or whatever, Middlebury,
yeah,
right?
I mean, there's so many towns have them, and a lot of other towns are considering it, and it'll be on ballots coming up. So I just wanted to put that out there to think about.
Tax.
Well, not property tax though.
Well, I mean, it's still our taxpayers who are paying it, because most of them are the ones that come.
Not
I mean, you take
necessarily.
Middlebury's local option tax, and when you see I approved the electrical bill for the bank and it's $3,000, $3,500 a month, and I look down the local option, it's,
Well, if that,
$75,
well,
$80.
they chose to put that on services.
They put it on everything.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have to be that way. You can pick, you don't have to put it on everything. It can be on just
Right.
food and beverage. It can be just lodging. It can be whatever. Or I'm not an expert on it, but I just wanted to put it out there as an option that it is, it would actually, if it could take the pressure off of these reserve funds and these other sources of funding to get this kind of work done, it would provide some relief to the property tax, because we wouldn't have to budget so much out of property taxes or plan for it.
Yeah, we would. It'd still be there, but
We'd find
I mean,
something
it's an,
else.
it's an option. It's an option. I
I
mean,
just wanted to put it out
I'm
there.
just trying to figure out, that's more work for
The merchants.
the merchants.
Mhm.
And do they pay the town directly? Does it have to go through the
Goes to the
state?
state.
Does-
Goes
yeah,
to the
and
state,
then
the
it comes
state
back to us.
cuts your check.
Yeah.
They keep 30%, I think.
Oh, yeah. See, I don't know all the logistics about it.
I think it's
But-
30%.
No, they have to get their hands on
Oh,
it.
sure.
Maybe even 40.
And I don't know, depending on what options or what aspects the community might be interested in exploring, I don't know how to project what that might bring in as a result. I really don't know. But if it's something that the select board is interested in pursuing, we can look into it. So anyway,
You can get that information from them.
probably from
From
other
the state.
towns and
No,
yeah.
from the state.
Oh,
Because they
yeah,
know how much
That's right,
sales
they're-
tax it is right now.
absolutely.
They
Yeah,
can tell you, okay, your food and drink would
Yeah,
be
yeah.
X number of dollars a year.
You're absolutely right. That'd be
You
a
can
very
co- you
simple
can
way to
find
do
that out,
it.
fairly simple.
Just have
Okay.
to- Yeah.
Anything else on this?
No, I just wanted to give you that update and see if you have any feedback.
Do you know when that might be available for us to look at? in
I'm
more depth?
expecting by the end of the week.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
and that would be for us and the public? Is
Yes.
that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the feedback and how we give you feedback, what's the best way? Are you looking, obviously, feedback from board members, but are you also looking for feedback from the public?
Absolutely.
Okay, and how might they give that?
Email, phone call.
Okay,
Yeah, email's really good.
okay. Do we want to put? I mean, is email more overwhelming than doing it sort of survey based in terms of questions about certain areas, or?
I do not have the capacity to prepare a survey.
Okay,
Or
but I'm
do
just
anything
saying, like,
with the
if
survey.
you put it out there and you get 100 emails from people, then that also adds to your capacity to sort of deal with that
I get that.
versus a more succinct way of doing it.
6 of one, half dozen of another.
Okay.
I don't expect 100 responses.
Okay,
What's in the chat there?
That's the reason.
previous one, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Is that it, Howard, for? the
I
capital
think
plan?
so, yeah,
So when that's ready, you'll share the
absolutely.
document that you've been working on in terms of the full narrative.
Yep.
And then the separate, the CIP
Yeah,
sheet.
all
Okay,
that, yep, all that.
fantastic.
Okay, so we're gonna skip over number 2.
Well, I think Taylor wants to give an update.
Yeah, I do want to
Okay.
give, if you guys want to give me ARPA funds, the skate park will accept them.
Right.
So I wanted to give an update because you guys did a lot this money and we haven't done very much with it. We did use some of it to purchase the shed that now houses the cross-country ski library and the mountain bike library, which we then used another grant to even expand that. We have more mountain bikes, so we have, how many? 12. We have 12 mountain bikes that are available for the community to use. They just have to reach out to Meredith and they're free, which is really great. And we have a fleet of, I think, 12 cross-country skis and like 20 sets of boots for people to use as well. But so I want to give you an update and kind of the path of what's gone on. So we got the ARPA funds allocated, and then after banging my head against a wall for a while of how do you build a skate park, and no one wanting to build an asphalt and wood skate park because they don't do that anymore and it's not sustainable, we brought it to the community and had another meeting and they voted unanimously to do concrete. And then we spoke with the
Open your pockets.
yeah. And so then which increases the price substantially. But it means that it will be here for a really long time. And it shows that Bristol prioritizes this as a community space. And it's something that we do value, which I think through the ARPA survey has been identified that it is a really important feature in the community for a lot of residents. So we worked with the rec club to get approval for land use, and now we are, I'm working on the RFP, and I'm hoping to have it done on Monday for a design, to request design, so that we then have an idea of what the design and engineering process will look like and the cost that we're going to see. I'm expecting the whole project, from what the resources online, I'm seeing the whole project. So now I have these figures a lot more comfortably, that I'm not doing asphalt wood, because no one does those, so no one gives any figures on that. So now with concrete, there are a lot of resources, because that's what all the advocacy groups that build skate parks advocate for concrete, because it's such a permanent structure. It requires so little maintenance. It is just like you're done, you build it, and then it's just available for the community without a lot of thought, which is really wonderful. So I'm expecting it to cost around $660,000 to build a concrete park. We were approved for up to 12,000 square feet by the rec club of like skatable surface. And we might do less than that. We're also including in the project, we want there to be sidewalks from the sidewalk to the skate park, and from extend the sidewalk from the hub skate sidewalk to the skate park, because the goal is accessibility, so people in the community can use it. There are so many like grandparents that are bringing their kids there, and so we want it to be easy to get there and not like trouncing through the grass and uneven ground. I'm expecting the whole like engineering design, basically everything up until the point of like we're breaking ground and we're going to build a new skate park. Online, the estimations are about 10% of the overall cost, so around $90,000 less, depending on what who we go with for designs and things like that. But it's a costly process. The overall project is expensive, but there's a lot of in-kind donations that we're looking at. I've applied for one grant already I attempted to apply for a grant this past fall, a year ago, and then found out when I followed up with them after a year of not hearing them, that I somehow applied using their web designers practice grant application, because for a year it's just been like in this limbo, like
not waiting for you to hit submit.
Undecided.
So how much did you get?
I submitted it, and then it was just like, we're like undecided, like we don't know yet. And I was like, okay. And so I emailed people, and they haven't gone back to me. I followed up with them, and then they're like, oh, somehow you got asked to this. And I was like, I don't know how, guys. I just clicked on links you sent. So that was a bummer. That was for $25,000. So we don't have that money. But I am also looking at grants. I've been talking with Frida a lot. We're looking at the Land and Water Conservation Fund for money, which is a 50-50 match from 25 to 1 million. And then we're looking at Borax specifically to address the sidewalks and accessibility of the park. And we got a $5,000 grant from the Vermont Community Foundation that we didn't apply for, and I was going to use the funds from Martin's to go towards it. And I also spoke with someone from the Department of Ed, because there's all that cannabis money, and he casually told me that we might be able to figure out a way to use some of that money to go towards the skate park. And when I asked him for figures, he said around $430,000 over 3 years. But that is very informal, because I haven't applied for that. So we're looking at a lot of funding. The goal is not, it's going to be fundraising. The goal is not to, we're not going to be asking for any money from the taxpayers or for the select board to approve any like capital funds for this project.
I'd love to hear that.
If you guys want to allocate more ARPA funds, it is something that's going to be around for generations, and it does show that we are prioritizing this in a substantial way. When I initially asked for funds, I was significantly underestimating the overall cost, especially given the final decision of the community and the way they want to move forward. But I also recognize that I am under prepared, since I don't have a design or real figures for you for what it's going to cost. But I'm hoping to have that before the final decision on the ARPA funds, but I also understand that that's not possible.
So the 140,000 that we allocated, is that just sitting there?
We used 7,000, so there's 100
for the park, for the skate park?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't, so the timeline was, I think you allocated.
Well, excuse me, you said you bought a shed for the mountain bikes. And so
7,000.
So it
But that's
wasn't,
not the skate park.
that's not the
right?
skate park.
That was part of in the entire project, that was part of the initial,
Some
proposal.
we gave them.
Okay.
It's money that came out of the sum we gave them.
I think Michelle's question is, 140 was for the skate park.
Well, that's what I thought, that's what I thought we
For the ARPA money.
allocated it for, but I don't remember the breakdown when they gave us the
In the initial breakdown, I
Yeah.
included,
the shed for the.
the shed, I didn't, but we would-
And you could have, I
charge
was
it.
just asking.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I wouldn't just be like, no.
Let
Close
me not
enough.
spend that
No,
money.
I wouldn't do that. Yeah, we're excited to move forward and I'm optimistic that through, community support and, grants, we'll be able to, but it's definitely gonna be a lot of work.
All right, so we're gonna skip that tonight, number two, we just got a kind of an update, we're not gonna vote.
Well, we don't,
Addition.
so I saw Taylor at the farmer's market and I talked to her about it because I saw it was on there. And then I said, for me, I just needed more information because I think it's such a big project and Taylor's time is split between a lot of different things. And this is one project that she's working on that's huge. And I just feel that she needs more help with that. And I think it's a bit scattershot at the moment. And I told her that myself, I wouldn't be comfortable using more ARPA funds until there was more information about the project put forward to us. But that was my opinion, but she should still come to the board and sort of discuss it and give us an update. And obviously it's your choices as well. But for me, I just needed more information about it. Just because we don't have anything that's in front of us that we can look at that is a design, that is, that it's just an estimate based on who she's talked to and reached out to.
Well, I haven't, as you noticed, I haven't read it yet, so I haven't asked for motion or a second, so.
Right.
They said they were passing. So
They're passing.
I will take
Take that as a
Taylor's pass.
Okay. Okay, but we didn't get it off the adjustment to removal, so that's.
No, but she still reported out.
Reported out, so, okay. Energy, thank you, Dale. Energy Committee presentation of a municipal energy resilience program for level 2 assessment for Holly Hall, Florence Library, and Houghton Hall, for Richard is behind me. Richard, back to you.
We're gonna play musical chairs tonight.
Did you want to share the screen? Is that what you're doing?
No, it was someone in the chat.
Oh.
You have the reports. Okay.
So there are a number of us here who are gonna kind of break down the report, kind of depending on what kind of detail you want on the report. But just let me kind of back up. And I don't know how familiar you are with Municipal Energy Resiliency Program, called MERP. It was funded out of Act 172 in 2022. And there's $45 million to support dependable and sustainable connections to critical municipal services for all Vermonters. So municipally owned buildings in cities, towns, incorporated villages, fire districts, and all government incorporated units except school districts are eligible. So it targets communities in need of energy resilience investments. And Bristol is designated as a community with an energy burden that makes us available to this grant or to be able to apply to this grant.
And in fact, Bristol is listed in the high category.
Yeah, we're just
High energy burden.
high energy burden. Energy burden is determined as the portion of income that's spent on heating, electricity, and transportation, our residents. So what it does is it provides grants up to $500,000 to a town for weatherization, thermal efficiency, supplementing or replacing fossil fuel heating systems with more efficient renewable or electric versions. So essentially, the purpose of this grant is to enable towns to reduce their energy burden, reduce their carbon footprint, and to do it in such a way that there is no cost to the town. There's no match for this money. So we applied for the grant for the assessment process, and we went to a level 2, which will enable us to not only apply for this money, but also other federal money that may come available or that is coming available. The level 2 assessments of each building were full energy audits. And so back in December, I think it was this year, it's been a long time, Du Bois and King came, and another company's name I've forgotten, came and spent a day. And we started out in Holly Hall, and they did blower door tests. They did thermal imaging. There was a team of 3 people who went from top to bottom of the building, investigating the heating system, the insulation, the weatherization, and that process then moved on to the library and then to Houghton Hall. And the result was a report that we received recently that Michelle is putting up on the screen.
That's
And-
Holly Hall. My screen's not scrolling.
So we're going to start with Holly Hall, but just to let you know
Yes.
that within these reports are a series of recommendations. The committee, the Energy Committee, has gone through and looked at the recommendations, and what David and Allison and Ben are going to walk you through quickly will be our recommendations regarding the recommendations. So for example, within each one of the reports, there's funding for electric vehicle charging. Well, we've determined that none of these buildings really have parking spaces for electric vehicle charging. And so you're going to see that as just simply an acknowledgement, but not necessarily a committee recommendation. And so these will be our recommendations based on really spending time looking at this stuff. And then we need your feedback, and we need to know what is going to happen next, how you want to proceed with this thing.
Is there a deadline for the implementation grants?
Well, let's see, Madison, are you
Yeah.
still here?
Yeah, she is.
Yep, she is.
Madison?
There she is.
Yeah, she's over there. Right there.
Oh, yeah, okay, great.
If she speaks.
And I'll
I
just
think
myself real
we'll
quick.
turn it over to Madison, who can answer that rather swishy question.
Yeah, so I'm the energy planner for the Addison County Regional Planning Commission, and I've been dealing with this MERP program right alongside Richard and the group. The deadline, as far as we know, for the implementation grant for your town, for high energy burden towns, is going to be September 15th. I have not seen the actual application. We haven't seen the application.
Yeah, a lot.
So the chances are that they're going to push that deadline back because they haven't released the application, but I don't have any evidence of that deadline. Should I talk more about what I'm working on, Richard, now, or do you want me to wait?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So in light of the rapidly approaching assumed deadline for this funding and the fact that Bristol is a high energy burden town and is pretty likely to receive funding, you're fairly competitive based on the kind of scoring matrix that I've seen so far. The Addison County Regional Planning Commission also has funding to kind of help administer this program. And we're putting some of that money towards hiring an architectural firm to help you all take a look at these assessments and put together a really strong application in the next month and a half. So I am supposed to receive proposals at the end of this week. Hopefully we'll have a contract put together next week, and we can start asking you all to sit down with those folks to really put together a strong application as soon as we have a form. So we're still waiting on BGS to give us the details of what they need from us. I've seen drafts. The actual application is not that strenuous. It's not going to be a big lift. The challenge I foresee is that I don't trust the cost estimates in the assessment reports that you've been given. And so I want somebody who works in the state, who has experience doing some cost estimating for these types of projects, to take a look at these reports and put together a stronger estimate. So that's what we're working on my end. If there are any other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Can you talk about, in the meeting we had a few weeks ago, can you talk about the priority levels of the recommendations? Because there was a certain order that you told us about that would benefit us.
Sure. So BGS has made it pretty clear that most of the scoring for this application is actually based on things that aren't in your control in your application. So your energy burden score, the capacity of the town, geographic distribution, et cetera. Part of the score, though, is going to be how you prioritize your projects. What they want to do is they want to fund weatherization and air sealing first. So insulation, caulking around the windows, those kinds of things. If you complete all of that and have money left over to ask for in that $500,000 budget, you can go up to things like fuel switching to heat pumps. And then you can move on to lighting, fixing windows, and the kind of last bastion is installing EV chargers, putting solar on the roof, etc. But if you haven't done the kind of highest priority things first, they won't fund an EV charger. So you kind of have to work through that prioritization and see how much money you have left.
So if you're not putting in an EV charger, that just gives you extra money to work towards something else.
Right. And to be clear, the $500,000 is just for the town. So the town can decide, you've got 3 buildings that you've gotten assessed. You can decide to try and split that money across 3 buildings, or you can decide to put it into 1 building. You can make that call yourselves. And I don't think that they're going to ask too many questions up front about which building is getting which amount of money. They're going to give you buckets that say, we need this much money for weatherization work. We need this much money for lighting. So that's going to be a benefit. We can fill out that application pretty quickly, the way they've structured it, but it is going to be necessary that we have a good idea of what those costs are.
So Madison, the consultant, is going to help us actually refine those numbers, which means we will not have to, at this level, bring in outside contractors. Is that correct?
Right. So bare minimum, recognizing the amount of time that they're going to have to help you, just as you're going to have a short timeline to put an application in the first place. My kind of bare minimum request to these contractors is give us good cost estimates based on the recommendations in these assessments, give us good cost estimates to complete any kind of architectural planning work that might be required, and help us start thinking about what kind of structural work might be behind some of this. So if you're thinking about fixing up an ADA compliant ramp, for example, you need to have a certified architect in the team, and that is a cost that is not involved in your energy assessment report. But it can be paid for by this grant. So it's just, there are a few costs that aren't involved in the assessment report that can be paid for with this funding. And so there's a gap that I'm trying to fill there. If we have funding left over, once they've helped you apply, and the budget that the RPC has set aside, we will ask them to then go on to things like helping you put together as-built of each building, helping you think about mechanical systems, getting a little bit farther down that planning road. But the priority is getting those applications in. Does that make sense?
Yes, Frida, our grant administrator, she's asking, are we clear about the reimbursement versus upfront payment with these funds? And you said it's upfront versus reimbursement, correct?
So that is what they told us. The most recent draft of the guidance.
Okay.
Is that they will give you
A couple of water projects, they told us the same
Yeah.
thing.
Okay.
that they will
Been
give
different
you
a couple of times.
10% upfront, and then you will be requesting against that amount every quarter. There is a stipulation that if you can demonstrate need, the town can request the full upfront payment. Upfront, no reimbursement. We don't know what the stipulation is for how to demonstrate that need. So there is a chance that we can make that happen for you guys, but it's not clear to me what that path looks like.
I mean, this whole program is a huge benefit for the town. Usually, since they're prioritizing the weatherization, that's the thing that's been the most difficult to get money for. Usually, if you're putting in heat pumps, you can get rebates and things like that. Weatherization, putting insulation, fixing windows, things like that. That's been the difficult thing that we've just known sort of over time. So this is great. I think it's really exciting. The amount seems like a fairly decent amount, and I think with the 3 buildings that we looked at, Holly Hall, Howden, and the library, I think we have a very good opportunity to make those as best they can be in these different areas.
Well, I look at the total bottom line number, but there's all these little question marks about
Correct.
cost, so it's like,
Yes.
okay, that $500,000 is gonna go quick.
It's gonna go.
What
Well-
you get, unless we just deal with like the weatherization piece
Right.
for each building and not worry about the rest of it,
Mhm.
you know, the heat pumps, whatever, yeah.
It seems like that's if you look at the full reports, you know, some of the recommendations, the payback years are pretty high.
Yeah.
You know, 85 years payback for
Right.
a particular thing. Right, exactly. And you may.
What's the return on investment? What's the
Right.
highest return on investment?
And that's what we're trying to balance out. The Energy Committee's been working very hard with that. So we've been asking questions of Du Bois and King to sort of figure out how we can best serve and use those funds. But, you know, without the weatherization part of it, which is that first main chunk, there's no point in putting in any of the other things if it's just gonna leak out the building.
Right. No, I agree.
But I think the question marks that those
That you
question
guys
marks
had.
because we didn't have.
Right, well, I know
So
that.
that's hopefully if we get these
Architecture,
people to help us, we can.
the
figure out
cost
some of those
estimators,
lines.
yeah.
And we even questioned some of those numbers. I mean, within our committee, we have enough lifetime
Experience.
experience to say that number's crap.
Yeah.
That number is like.
That's not even realistic.
There's some items that are like $50, there's no way.
And it's like, there's no way you can use $50.
So, to air seal.
Just for context, the total sum of the cost estimated recommendations, including everything, even including the ones you didn't
Without the
recommend.
question marks.
Yeah, everything is 244,000.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there's room for.
and we think
Yeah.
that might be like
Yeah.
40% more.
Yeah,
on top,
right.
You know,
Yeah, at least,
Mhm.
yeah.
when we got real numbers.
Right.
Well, how did of course, you're gonna, Du Bois and King did the study and the blower test. I've been through this,
Mhm.
with our National Bank, our main building on
Mhm.
Main Street. And we put 47 new windows in, and we see a huge difference. That cost was $458,000.
Mhm.
But we had to do that because this building is historical like that one is, and we couldn't just put in
Right.
something.
Right.
They had to have if you go back down there now, you'll see the rope arch, had to make those special and that's what.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But we see a huge difference. Now we heat that building with a match.
So
It's a huge difference.
just a word about
I was
payout.
wondering how the blower test did. What did they see?
The figures are, I think they're in here.
Yeah, they're all.
We haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
No, it's online. I
yeah,
just
you
haven't had a chance to read it.
can take a look.
Okay.
This is how thick they are, so we didn't. print them out.
And we sent you guys like a
Yeah, we
summary.
sent-
Yeah. we got
Yeah.
some.
And if you want, we'll go through that. Just a word about payout. One of the things that we were cautioned about is, yes, something has a very long, maybe payout, but there are other factors. For example, we think it's very important that we have heat pumps on the second floor of Holly Hall so that the theater part, the meeting part, can be used as a warming and cooling center in case of emergencies. Also, that room is not really comfortable in the high summer for events, which with heat pumps, it will be. And so if there's money to put heat pumps in this grant, and we can justify it on the basis of making the space more adaptable, that's acceptable in the guidelines, as I understand it. Is that correct, Maddie?
Yeah, I haven't seen any reference to any payback periods in any of the draft guidance. So this is a no match grant program. I've been telling folks, if these are projects that won't get done for 50 years because the town can't afford to do it yourselves, this is the time to ask and be ambitious. That's what this program is really designed to help you do.
And we've got
Ask for the moon.
We've got a pot of $500,000.
The paybacks also account, like, didn't the number of people in the building?
Yeah.
And we weren't, and the occupancy rates, we didn't really, we thought they were kind of understated a little bit.
For example, in this building, occupancy rate of 3 to 5 people. Well,
in a day.
In a day.
Right.
That's only 3 to 5 people here, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. That doesn't include the people that are in and out all day long.
Yeah, 5 people, I mean, obviously.
Right.
This room.
Or the
So
meetings
we
every
don't, we
night.
don't count.
So we thought that was pretty conservative.
Yeah.
on
Should
their
we,
part.
should we go through the summaries?
Sure.
We'll do a brief,
Yeah. So I'm gonna.
I could
I'll
put
do
it
a
on the
brief,
screen.
sort of run through.
So
of
this
the
is
measures.
David Flash and Ryan. He's a relatively new member of the Energy Committee, but he's also a practicing architect. And so these.
We won't hold that.
Once he finishes practicing, maybe he'll.
You beat me to it.
So I think, just to reiterate what Madison said about weatherizing is, the top priority. And down the list are things like, the lighting and fuel switching and also ventilation, although what Richard just mentioned, he actually didn't mention that particular part, but we thought getting balanced ventilation upstairs also would be a good idea, especially when you have a lot of people in there. So anyway, those are the things we're all considering, even though they may not have been recommended in the report specifically. So these reports are kind of broken down in these categories: energy conservation measures, and that'll be the first one I'll talk about. So weatherization, which is, as we heard, air sealing, insulation, things of that nature, and that's in that category. Programmable thermostats. This is all for, this is for Holly Hall. I'm just gonna go through Holly Hall first. Integrated heating controls, lighting retrofit. So some do lighting. So that comes out to be in the report, which of course we're not saying these are the figures because we think they're a little low, but about 68 grand. And then the next category is renewable resilient energy measures, which includes possibility of battery electric storage. So this would be used theoretically as a resiliency measure, like if the building was, in a power outage or let's say a disaster, the building could be used as a heating and warming center, as Richard had mentioned. However, we question that because the building's already served by a generator. So it probably doesn't make sense to go after that, right? There are probably other buildings that could benefit from that.
Unless we want to abandon the generator
True.
and go with the electricity instead and not have to pay for the fuel. But I'm seeing heads nodding or shaking no.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's-
it's
That ain't
certainly
broke, don't fix
something
it,
to
yeah.
discuss, I'd say. I think it's something to discuss. Richard already mentioned electric vehicle charging, so I won't mention that.
$125.
$125, I know.
How much does it cost you for the
Yeah, very
vehicle chargers?
Everyone should have.
It's a little bit more.
I
So,
think what they're factoring in is rebates and it's.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
Both
Mhm.
state and federal, so.
Or just an extension cord out from Valerie's office.
there's a lot.
But then the window would have to be open.
I'd have to open my blinds.
So, the next measure is, one we do recommend, which Richard already mentioned, is the air-to-air heat pumps for the second floor. For the very reasons he mentioned, that, it makes it a space we can actually use in the summer. It's a possibility for, it's a resiliency factor so that we can use it as a heating or warming or cooling center, depending upon the season that maybe something might happen, emergency center. So that particular item is about $20,000. So, and again, it could be higher than that. We also included in our summary a new boiler, although as we understand that the program won't pay for fossil fuel boilers, but it's something that the town could consider if because we're kind of using the heat pumps as our primary heating here in this building, and the oil boilers maybe more of a secondary, or it comes on and in the really cold, super cold periods of time. So there was also a mention in even though they didn't actually assign a cost to it, there was a mention in the report about hot water circulation pumps being kind of outdated, and we could actually save a lot of energy if we replace those. So Richard had got a sort of a ballpark estimate, I call it, very ballpark, maybe slightly out of the ballpark. Yes, right about $2,000 for that. Just looking up online kind of thing. So when we work with this architect, we'll be able to really, pin that down. So that all those things I just mentioned is about $146,000 for that building. And then there are two other, the items that have question marks. One is that the report mentioned before we insulate, doing extra insulation in this building, that we should have the walls, they call it hydrothermal computer modeling, which they basically take the materials of the wall, that when these buildings were built, they had no insulation. And so basically they could dry to the inside, they could dry to the outside. If they got, if the brick got wet, masonry got wet, once you insulate, that kind of changes things. The interior surface of the brick is actually cooler. So there's a greater possibility of condensation. So you have to get the right balance. So that, I think, kind of a question maybe for Madison is if that is about, we got a preliminary number of about $50,000 to do that modeling. And I'm not sure if that would qualify for any of the implementation money.
Yeah, so my understanding is that we can request funding to help us finish the project development work. So I would make sure that we have that quote in the documentation. I would request that funding in the kind of consultation, supportive contractor bucket of funding that they allow us to enter. And I would add some narrative about why that's important to this particular historic building that's of great value to the community, yada, yada, yada. But yes, as far as I know, that we can ask for that funding. Okay,
thank you for that. So the other item that the committee was recommending is doing a balanced ventilation system. So basically it's using heat exchange for the second floor theater space. Given the occupancy at big events, that we think that right now there is no sort of ventilation for that room that is beyond just like turning on a fan or something. So we would recommend that we at least look at that and see if, first of all, I think it would be very possible to do. And secondly, what that would cost if we were to do that. There is a little bit of an energy penalty if we do this, because basically you're taking outside air and mixing it, or not, you don't mix the actual air, but you run it by the air that's already inside. That's exhausting, and then so you kind of temper it. Right, so you temper it, but you're still losing a little bit of inside air to the outside. So but it does provide health benefits, and indoor air quality is improved, and so I think it's a good use of money.
You have that down here.
Right.
You do have that.
Right. Yeah. I can tell how great the air is.
We haven't passed out yet.
Right, exactly.
And upstairs is not.
So if maybe we should ask for any questions on what I just outlined for Holly Hall. Okay, I can just move on quickly to the other two
Do
buildings.
they consider this space here, this basement was all renovated in 2000?
2010.
Yeah, they did.
Was it that late?
Yeah, the whole time.
Yeah, they did. They assessed all the building, all the mechanical systems.
So
that
I know the
changed.
walls got all insulated,
Yeah.
spray foamed.
Yeah.
And I wanted that, and Bill cut it out.
I'll be down here all day long.
Yeah, hear it all day long. Yeah, go ahead.
What's the next
All
one?
right. So, out in Hall, this is a little bit shorter list. Weatherization includes the roof, attic, windows, doors, just kind of general air sealing. And that's basically a little over $5,000 for this building. And this building also, under the resiliency measures, included electric battery storage, which could be considered for that building to give it resiliency on power outage, et cetera. I think they have only maybe $7,000 here. It really depends on how long you want the building to kind of continue operating, and basically, what do you have on the battery? Is it just the lights? Is it the heating system? If you're going with heat pumps, they want to be on there, et cetera. They also recommended solar PV for that building. I can't say that I am that familiar with the building myself, so but they considered that the roof was a good candidate for solar PV.
It goes east and west.
Right.
It goes east and west.
Yeah, and it's pretty
But
wide.
is the slope to the south?
No.
No, it's the other way. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have seen them on the west side too, but. And so this building also would be recommending the air-to-air heat pumps for that building as well.
When they say air-to-air heat pumps, are they talking just one big one or enough to do
No, it'd
the
have to
whole?
be enough. It would
Okay.
be several. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, both those buildings and so is the library, historic buildings, we really have to think about, placement, and
I was
I
gonna
know
say
you already have
location.
heat pumps here. And I've never seen them from the street, but so someone did a good job, but so I think that would be a sort of another conversation, how we can do it sensitively and the interior and just one other little thing that was in the report, but also not priced, was that we would have to upgrade the electrical service in that building if we had heat pumps. So it's like a 200 amp service, and we have to make it 300 amps. So there is a cost there.
Cha-ching.
I don't know how much that is, but we could probably find out pretty quickly. So anyway, this whole list includes about $32,000. Lastly, the Bristol Library. Energy conservation measures are weatherization again, including some work on the foundation, walls. There's some recommendations for the doors, especially the door that's not really being used. Like some options for that, like should we close it off? Should we make it a window and things of that nature? So there's a little bit of scope that is discussed in the reports that they just put a number to, but we don't exactly know, what did you put in for the price? Did you?
What does this include?
What does this include? Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
interestingly, on that subject, we have another grant application submitted through the library's program
True.
for significant renovations to the library to make it accessible for internet access year round. And so that included a lot of interior and exterior renovations, including eliminating that door that to nowhere,
Okay.
making that a window,
Oh.
and sealing off that, changing the configuration of that room as a private room for a computer or for somebody to use the library in privacy. And so that door would be a window.
Yeah.
And that room would be reconfigured.
And I think what as Madison had said, like some of these things we could ask for, and if we're not good, let's say that grant comes through and we don't use that for that purpose, and we could shift it to other things.
Cool.
So I don't know where, well, maybe, I don't know where that grant stands, but I guess we'll find out.
Still waiting to hear.
Still waiting, okay. In this, in Bristol Library, the Lawrence Library, programmable thermostats, integrated heat controls, and also some lighting retrofits. That's about 25 grand. We also had battery storage, electric battery storage for that building. I think there was some question as to where they would go. Is there space in the library to do it? And maybe in Howden Hall too.
Yeah.
If there's actual space to put a battery.
Do we know what we're talking about for size or for space requirements, both square footage and height wise?
You need about 7, well, depending on what you get.
Yeah.
The program that GMP does, you need about 17 feet wide. They have to be placed side by side. They can't be mounted together. So you need quite a width, and it's about this tall and about this deep.
Wow.
So there's definitely space.
Sounds like the size of this room. I mean, the length of this room.
You were at All Earth Renewables opening, and Dave said, I didn't go with battery backup. I went with a generator because I know the generator works.
Yes.
And that's a guy who does solar data.
Yeah. And it depends. I mean, or you do a combination of both. I mean, at the library, you need a concrete pad, and you need the space to hold it out there. And the battery won't give you as probably much length as the generator will. So you have to sort of look at those. And for inside, there's zero space that they have. They're trying to get more space. One of the ideas was to remove the oil and go to propane to be able to get the tank that's sitting in the basement in the children's section out of there, so they can actually use that space. I mean, it's being used, but it's like stuff's on top of the tank. So like that's one of the ideas. But then to add batteries on top of that, that's more difficult.
I'm wondering, here in the village, yeah, you guys lost it Friday night, I understand, for 24 hours here in some sections of the village.
Right.
But, we don't lose power that often. I'm wondering the cost.
Wish I could say that.
Yeah, but the cost versus putting the batteries in, well, the power went out, we're gonna close the library tonight because the power's out. It's
short term.
It's short term.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the cost there is.
I mean, it's different here if you're gonna use it for a cooling and heating center.
Right, yes, I was
Versus
gonna say.
that's not used for that.
But you, like, if you want to do that here, then that would make sense, and if you want to do it in other buildings, it would probably make sense to look at that. But if you're not intending to do that at the library or Howden Hall, then maybe that makes sense. So continuing on the library, also air-to-air heat pump system. That is about a $20,000 item.
Okay, I'm looking at your notes here. It says an air to water heat pump system is more easily integrated with the existing hot water system. So are you saying not an air to air and we do an air to water?
Well, it's this is taken out of the report, and basically that why they're saying air to water can be more easily integrated is because you're still heating with water. However, that it's harder to get the air conditioning portion of that, the cooling portion out of it. You'd have to have a separate radiator system, and then where would that go?
So they're still saying go to air heat pump,
they are,
but you do have that.
Air to air is a lot to bring in fresh air for staff that's there all day. And then we take our bank, we have multiple of those air to air exchangers because they fall asleep in the afternoon and because they got no fresh air coming in. So you heat it coming in. That's what they're for. Heat exchangers are breathe fresh air.
Yeah, and-
Heated fresh air.
And that is in that occupant health and comfort measures that, we're requesting that the mechanical ventilation system is added to, because you can think about that. I think that, Champlain came out or.
Yeah, we had 3 vendors come out,
Yeah,
we're still
and they said it
waiting
was
for.
difficult.
Yeah, I mean, each one of them said that the possibility was there, sort of going into the ceiling, similar to what would happen for Holly Hall. You would put most of the equipment up there, and that's how you get your air, but you're punching through the wall somewhere. But
Yeah,
I
you gotta
agree.
duct
I
it
mean,
all.
I think, yes, I think it's a combination of doing the heat pumps. The air to air is definitely in terms of the cooling for the summertime. Usually they use window units, and it's just not enough. It gets very hot in the library. Even as stuff's leaking out the doors and the windows and the walls. But the air to air is, or the air circulation is another big part of that too. Especially because of COVID and sort of the measures for health and safety. That was one of the big parts of that.
Did the report say anything about, like, you had the heat pumps, that you could not use this money for this grant? And maybe go after efficiency Vermont? That's what we did at the bank. We went after efficiency Vermont for all of our
I
lighting.
think that's included in here.
We went after
That's
for all of our
assumed-
lighting.
I think there were some,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
rebates from efficiency Vermont in there. Yeah.
That's probably why the numbers are so low, is because they
Yeah.
figure
There
out.
is that, there is that, that's a good point.
Rebates.
Because there's a lot more detail actually in the report than we summarized here. We're just giving you the bottom line. So, last thing is, that we would have to upgrade the electrical service in that building too for the heat pump part. So it's, again, it's hard to know what that would be, but that's an astronomical thing, but, so that ends up being about 68,000. So I think the original figure you said, Richard, is 242,000, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So we're well south of the 500,000, so.
Okay, that's only with the numbers not the
Yeah.
numbers we know.
Right. You probably have some play.
Right, you have room to move. Mhm.
Maddie, can electrical upgrades be funded through this grant?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think they fall lower on the priority list, right? So I think they probably fall somewhere between lighting and windows and that EV charger, solar, electric storage, those 2 categories. So they want you to do everything else first, essentially.
Yeah, well, so what, could we just combine them with the heat pumps, that's just part of the scope of the heat pumps is upgrading the service? and-
Right.
Yeah, so I think we can make the justification. And again, you have to give me a little bit of grace because I don't have confirmed guidance on this grant yet. But from what I understand, we can make that argument. We can say we can't install a heat pump. We want a fuel switch. We can't do it unless we upgrade our panel. But they do want to see that you're demonstrating that you've kind of ticked off all of those other projects before you get there.
A lot of good work.
Nice job.
Thank you very much for all
Great
your work. Thank you, Maddie.
Yeah, thank you.
To be honest with you,
I do have a question. Are you authorizing us to go forward with this?
To get the
With Maddie?
costs. Yeah.
To get the figures and numbers, yeah.
Yeah, to get the cost and so on.
Absolutely.
Is there any hesitation to us actually applying or authorizing applying for the implementation grants? I mean, we do have another meeting.
There's no
but-
match, so
Right.
we're pretty
I mean,
comfortable.
my only thing is where it says it's not cost efficient, I'm looking at, I don't think we need to put a boiler in here, or I don't think we need to do this. Some of the things that you guys have added, but if you get the money for it, we can use it somewhere, we can use it for something else,
Right,
but you
right.
do need the numbers.
Right. I mean, we're hoping to get from the 3 vendors that have come out. We're still waiting on them. I think it's just their priority of doing a quote versus doing actual work. Much lower down. So we're still trying to get those. So we will have better numbers with some of the systems that were talked about in the reports. And then, but also too, with the library grant, sort of balancing that out as well, I think that would really help us, which then can maybe potentially move some of this 500,000 we can use
Here or the
yes,
all,
and we go to that next level with the heat pumps. I think heat pumps and the air to air, I think are pretty important in the library and Holly Hall, especially so upstairs.
I mean, what they were mentioning here is, I hate to toot my own horn, but the bank is done. And we have electronic, I can set the thermostats in 3 of those buildings to the bank on my phone.
Yeah.
And nobody else can touch it except my boss. Him and I are the only ones got priority. We can do it on our computer or here on our phone.
I mean,
Well,
no,
how
and
if
then-
something happens to the two of you?
Well, there's a
We're
third,
slowed, right?
the IT department can get in. And then we did the windows was the big thing. And
Yeah.
the staff now say, and that's where I'm wondering if it was 300,000, do this building in windows.
right,
It may be well spent because our building, we switched from oil to natural gas because it was going by
right.
and we can heat it with a match.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah,
comfortable.
well, is it, I guess if we tighten the building up and we put heat pumps in, is it,
Still going
is
out the
it-
windows.
is-
Still going out the
but
windows.
is it worth spending the extra money to change the heat source? The secondary heat source, if
Right.
you already have it and it's working?
Right.
Right.
I
Right,
mean,
Yeah.
it's a balancing
It's
act.
in the balancing.
Also too, with the window side of things, both for upstairs and for the library, it's difficult because of the.
Historical.
Yes,
Well, they
You-
can be made.
right, but it's
Like I said-
a much, but I mean, is yours a historical building?
Yes.
Right,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
so
we
so
had-
that's why.
That's why it was
it's that
$300,000.
So it was 458,000 to our building.
Okay.
Well, we did
Yeah.
47 of them. We did all of it.
Right,
The only two we didn't do, the big glass in the front door.
yeah, luckily, we don't have that many windows.
No,
Right.
we don't have that many.
But yeah,
But we-
that's a huge part of it.
And we'd like to see the numbers, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Join the club.
No,
I'd
I
like
don't
to-
care.
I wanna dig into that report and see what the blower tests and see if they saw a lot of leakage around the windows
Yeah.
and in the door.
Yeah.
They may not have
It's
down
definitely
here.
there, they have,
The
yeah.
thermal.
Yeah, it's all there, the
Yeah.
thermal shots are great, where you can see it.
And it was
The full
just-
reports are on the website
Yeah.
under.
I'll be honest with you, I hadn't had a chance.
I
I've gone all
When the
week.
blower door was on, I was standing upstairs, where you go down to the handicap access,
Mhm.
and my hair was blowing.
I don't have that problem.
Okay, consider energy committee proposal, mission statement and bylaw. Maybe we should have done this one first. Go ahead.
So, you've had a copy of that, sent to you. This is a revision, and I wanna credit Jim. He comes to our energy committee meetings, it keeps us honest, where he engages with us otherwise, but anyway. He went through our initial draft and based on his experience in municipal government, came up with some changes that we thought were very good. So essentially, this came about as a result of kind of discussions we've had in the Energy Committee about what our mission actually was. What are we comfortable doing and presenting to the town? And so looking at the town plan and the enhanced energy plan part of it, there were some clues. But then I was able to get hold of a copy of the plan from Middlebury, the Middlebury Energy Committee, and basically use that as a template, customizing it for Bristol. And so that's what this is all about. And the important thing I think for us really is the first couple of parts, which are what are we as an energy committee supposed to be doing? And both in talking to folks at the Regional Planning Commission, Energy Committee, and our own thinking, and using Middlebury as a pattern, as a template. We feel that the Energy Committee's job is to promote energy savings and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I mean, that's essentially the core. And even all this MERP stuff, that's what the core is about with the MERP program that's coming directly out of the legislature and the administration. And so we feel it's our job to recommend to you guys particularly practices to ensure sustainable energy use. Frankly, because they are also the most cost effective generally on the long term. And even what we just presented, all this MERP stuff, we felt it was part of our responsibility to pursue this grant application. I think in part because we know that the town does not have tons and tons of staff and staff time. And so we can provide, we can be a resource for research and scoping out possible ways in which the town and its residents can reduce energy and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I'm sure you know that the state has various energy dashboards, and that the towns are actually going to be called upon to meet targets for energy reduction over the next 5-10 years. What I enjoy about it is asking Madison about it. But there is a energy template for Bristol in which we are doing very well in terms of heat pumps, for example. We've already met 2025 standards according to the state for the number of heat pumps in the town.
How do they know that?
No,
By
it's
based on
just-
rebates?
yeah, just one.
Based on people submitting for rebates?
It's big brand. Well, this is what's really funny about it to me. I don't know how accurate it is, although.
You do have to fill out Green Mountain Power.
I think it's coming
Coming from Green Mountain
Power.
Power to the state probably.
Yeah, that
Because
is.
you have
That's
to-
if
I
you
had
get a
to-
rebate.
No.
I mean, I put a heat pump in. The only reason I filled out anything for Green Mountain Power was because I was getting a rebate.
So as long as everybody gets the
The rebate.
Good.
I know.
Otherwise, they
We have
wouldn't
the
know.
data.
So anyway, I don't know about that, how credible it is. I think
That
it's
just means they
also-
won't be hounding us, right?
Well, we're not doing well with transportation and we're not doing well with weatherization. There are 4 categories. And I asked Maddie, so what happens if we don't meet our targets? What's the carrot?
You get a
What's
slap
the
on the
stick?
hand.
Right. She said, well, there really is a day. It's aspirational.
I think whatever you recommend or whatever you pursue, you should do with a little bit of common sense. I know the state just bought an electric excavator, paid over $1 million for it. They could have bought 3 regular excavators for that. Now, in order to go to the site, the batteries last 3 hours. So to go to the site, they have to truck it to the site with a truck and trailer, and then they have to truck the generator.
I was gonna say, there's gotta be a generator to go
So
with
now
it.
you've got.
And what does the generator
So
run
now
on?
you've got two vehicles going there, and I don't wanna do something just because it feels good. I wanna
Right.
do something
Right.
because it makes a difference.
Right.
And I'm on board with making a difference. I'm not on board with doing it just because it feels good.
Tokenism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we agree with that.
If you gotta go do an emergency repair or.
Well, what
digging-
kind of emergency lasts 3 hours? And I
Right.
guess the machine is so big that they, in order to use it, they have to close the road because it.
It takes up the whole road.
Yeah. So I mean,
Oh, man.
it just, we're lacking common sense in some areas. And I really like what you're doing and I really want to save energy and I want to do the right thing, but I want to do the right thing for the right reasons, not just because it feels good.
Well, and it's always gonna come to you. I mean, our recommendations are gonna come to you. So, yeah.
And I wonder with the transportation, I was thinking that earlier, when you said about transportation is. You probably do it after gas sales in town, number one, but, a lot of transportation, we're losing that, you said we're not doing well.
Yeah, but she's
But
not that.
you look at.
It's all registrations too. When you register your car, they know if you have a gas or hybrid.
Right, but also there's 2 towns to the east of us and north of us that don't have gas stations. So where they gas up. So we're getting that Lincoln and Starksboro and Moncton people that are maybe gassing up here when they come to, instead of going into Heinsberg, or Lincoln has to, or Tuttick. So I just was wondering how much.
Can't we charge him a non-resident?
Can we put a toll booth on?
But no, I just was wondering if they got those figures with transportation is.
Well, I think
I agree with the
vehicle
registration also.
registrations, yeah.
But I
And
think
it's-
Peter's point is a really good one, and I think you emphasized that is to promote energy savings and reduce greenhouse gases, right? So you're looking for the balance between those things.
Okay.
Which is great.
Do you want comments? Do you want me to give you my comments that I
Yes.
had on this? Most of Jim's changes left, I think we're good. I have some questions about, you talk about final decisions and actions shall be decided by a majority. Are you talking majority of total members or majority of members present? Which you then kind of talk about later on, but I wasn't sure if it was consistency or not.
It's members present, but it's
okay.
not, that's not specific.
Well, you had it later on. I was just trying to figure out why it was in two different spots. And then Jim says on number 4, but talking about membership, says members served at the pleasure of the select board. I think I would say appointment. And then you talk about the quorum, and it says, my question was, will there be a good standing members? Because you say they have to attend at least 2/3 of the meeting. If they don't attend 2/3 of the meeting, are they allowed to vote? So you might have to clarify that. And my only other.
Would you just jot?
Yeah,
an
I'll just give you
email
my
to me?
notes.
Yeah.
The only other thing was the dissolution piece, and Val might know the answer to this. I know you initially said tax exempt organization, and Jim changed that to the town's general fund. My question is if they have a grant that they haven't used yet or whatever, can that go back into the general fund, or does that have to go to a 501c corp? Because I know there's if you are a 501c corp, you have to give your funds to a 501c corp. Or, but I wasn't sure about this.
You mean?
So that's why I put a question in there about.
You mean if the energy committee got a grant and they didn't use it?
Yeah, like if we give them appropriations, if we give them an appropriation, that would definitely come back to me, that would definitely come back to the town. But if they had grants or somebody donated money to the energy saying, we want you to use the energy committee, we're giving you this money to use for whatever, can that money technically come back to the
If the
town? Does
money,
it have to
if
come?
grant funds were not spent in accordance with the agreement, then they would have to be given back to the funding agency. Donations or other sources of funding without those kinds of restrictions are the towns.
Okay, so.
Because
so
the
technically they
energy
could all come
committee
back to the
is an element of the town.
Okay.
It's not a
So
separate.
that was just my
I think
question.
what we're thinking about on that is the commission to dissolve
Right,
any funds that they would have then.
Yeah.
right.
Sorry, people don't. Okay.
And I just have one question about so in 3A and B, you talk about energy savings for individuals, businesses, and the community as a whole. And then also actions that the community should take to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions of the town of Bristol. It's unclear if your advisory status is for the select board and the town, or if it's for the citizens. And I was just wondering if you viewed the organization as working for both regular people, like you would be, I don't know, it seems like there's some overlap there with Efficiency Vermont. Like, would you be doing individual energy audits at houses? Would you be doing like events to teach people to reduce their water usage? Like, it was just unclear to me how much you would be advising the town versus what your goal is with the community.
Well, for example, normally we are at the Harvest Festival with information for residents of the town. We've also had energy workshops where members of the community were invited. And so I think it is a dual role.
But it's more like outreach to the community than it is
And
actually
education rather than somebody calls you and
services.
say, will you come to my house and advise me? Right.
Right.
Yeah, outreach and education, I think.
Right,
that's it.
it's always education.
Right, because it says promote energy savings. That's the part that, to me, that sounds like Efficiency Vermont, right? Like you can save energy and they'll send you light bulbs. And so you might just want to make it clear in the wording exactly what you're doing for individuals, businesses, the community, and then the town and select board. Because I think they're actually different things.
Okay.
So they send you blown light bulbs so you don't use any electricity?
No, but they do send you some ugly ones.
Should I raise my hand to say something?
Yep, go ahead, Sally.
Okay, I think along with that, helping people save money, I think it came around when we originally were doing workshops with Efficiency Vermont to help the townspeople sign up for energy audits and all that. You know, it was kind of we weren't really doing it, but we were just facilitating the connection between Efficiency Vermont and people.
Maybe that's a good word to use, facilitate.
Facilitate.
Right.
Okay.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I think.
Facilitate outreach.
The other thing is, the window dressers, that we've sponsored a number of times in Holly Hall, so.
Yeah.
And those are, those are more than education, those are hands-on with people.
You want to do another revision? Sure. And then bring it before the board?
Did you want to go through any other sections?
I think at number 3, their final decision action will be decided by the majority of the energy, should it say energy committee?
Yeah.
And then, for a final approval to bring to the select board. It just said maybe.
Okay.
Decided by the majority of who?
You just want, I just want to take that. No, I do it all the time, so for my students.
I would give you fits.
Yeah.
If you need help, I'm here for you.
Have a drink.
I have my own dictionary. I spell my own way.
Sorry, anything else for the committee?
No, good job, guys.
Good job, guys. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll come back.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
we'll be here.
Thanks,
Thank you, Sal.
Well, we are gonna go home. We're not gonna be here.
Yeah. Review of the meeting minutes for June 3rd, 29th, and June 30th.
They were posted on the website.
I make a motion to accept all 3 with no changes.
Second.
Thank you.
There's a motion and a second. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Bye.
Opposed? All right, abstained, okay. Accounts payable authorization.
I think everybody signed it.
71,889.69.
Yep. Okay. And no, I didn't see any liquor.
No, I didn't see anything.
There's some other things in there. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Select board roundtable. Well, Jessica, why don't we start with you?
I don't really have anything to report. I've been on vacation, so.
That's over the weather.
So if you can skip me, I'll get
Ian.
updates next time.
Still waiting to hear back on the electric vehicle charging, but hopefully we're gonna hear soon. And I think Charge Vermont will be making their announcements.
You keep saying soon. It's like they keep putting you off.
It's just soon over like 3 or 4 years. So yes, I'm hoping that we're successful with that, obviously. So waiting to hear back on that. The bus shelter, they did some asphalt around the shelter over by
Shaw's?
Yep, over by Shaw's. And so I informed Mary Claire at Tri-Valley Transit that happened. There was also a nice little note that someone had written and stuck on it.
To the.
Have you seen that
No,
note?
I didn't.
It's great.
Did you take a picture? Can you
I
share
did
it?
take a picture. Here.
Aw, can you share it on the screen?
Not
Beautiful.
easily.
That's
I did have a
great. What's
comment.
it say?
It's beautiful.
Whoever designed and built this pavilion.
Did you
is
put that up
beautiful.
yourself?
Great job.
Ian, you put that up yourself, didn't you?
And that's interesting that they spelled pavilion with 2 L's because I always want to, and it always looks odd when I only see
But
one L.
the apostrophe's in the right.
I mean, I did have a comment from one of the Tri-Valley bus drivers that they're still parking in front of the
I know, and you have to walk over, yeah.
because there's no place to pull up there, because there's parking there.
I know. Once they're waiting, they didn't want to inform the drivers and work with them yet to move and sort of figure out the position and also inform. riders. But now that it's asphalted, they'll start to put signage up, and I think they'll address that. It was just, unfortunately, it was the only location that was suitable. And so I think the drivers will have to adapt and figure out. So that's coming along. And then there's a few changes being made at the one over on Firehouse Drive as well, but that's coming along too.
Great.
So that, and then I think that's about it for me.
Thanks, Ian. That's great work.
Michelle?
Nothing really, just thanks to Eric and his crew. I texted him a lot. He asked me to come out and help, and I said Chad wouldn't let me run the chase off.
Did you?
What about the loader? Yeah, the loader.
I would have done that.
You were doing work on Church this morning.
Yes.
Did you also do the work on the house further down? Okay, that was
Is that
separate.
Lossman's?
Okay.
Was that Lossman's house? Yeah.
Saturday.
Okay. Are you because I know it was on your list, so we have to figure out.
Wasn't on the list.
It wasn't on the list, that tree? Oh, okay.
Oh, that's good.
There was a little bit of circumstances involved in that. I'd rather not say it on camera.
Sure, okay. But the one that you were working on in Church, that was on.
The one that we did was on Maple Street side of Church.
Okay.
The other one on North Street side of Church, Randy Sargent and Brett Sargent did it.
Okay.
I think it was Saturday. They took it down.
Okay. Yeah, it was an impressively large tree.
Did we lose any trees that you had marked to trim or
Well,
take?
no, actually.
Darn.
That's poor planning.
While we're talking trees, my brother-in-law and sister Wedges mentioned, they thank you for trimming the tree. John came up and trimmed the tree just north of the driveway with the big trucks going 200 a day going to Peaker's Pit.
Let's just put that in there.
So I'm gonna count every load when they go to Joel's property.
And but the next tree above it, John has seen it, and they're falling and everything goes right straight through it and right in the tree. He said, I'd be willing to cut it. He said, not the tree, but cut some branches if you wanted to.
Ooh.
Reggie said he would, but he wants to tell you that take a look at it. The next tree above the two from their driveway, the second one from their driveway to the north.
Yeah,
You see the phone line and cable line go right straight through the middle of that shorter tree.
I got a hold of a contractor to give me a price on doing the canopy again and also taking the trees back.
Cause I did see Brett's email about that.
Yeah, that was the other thing you wanted to bring up tonight.
Yes, and Greg
Butler.
We're starting on the sidewalks, the first week of September.
But, yeah.
So anybody who's got
notified?
trees.
Have we?
No, so we were talking about that this morning.
Send it on.
Yeah, I was just sending pictures of them and some things that need to be fixed.
Can't send it to obviously every owner, but we don't know.
Have we got, just a thought, and I know Sharon would kill me, and glad she's not here, but,
Isn't that her cool?
No.
when's the next water bill go out?
Yeah, we talked about that too.
That's what we talked about too, part of it.
I think, it's mid-September.
So it'd be
Too late.
Yeah.
By the way, we trimmed your trees.
You're welcome.
Well, that's the other
You're
thing
just-
too, is, when Greg and I go out through and do them, how aggressive do you want us to be?
Yeah, that was the question.
Do you want us just at nip and we'll be done for 1 year and then nip, be done for another?
I think you need to do enough so that we don't have to go out and do it every single year.
Okay, well, I'm good with that,
But we
but.
should tell people, right?
Yes, we need to let people
This
know.
office is gonna
Yeah.
get some serious phone calls.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I think we
No,
put it on front porch.
I'm gonna paint a number on the side of your truck, so
That's
your
fine.
cell phone number.
And then also, I think a
He
sign out,
leaves his cell
one
phone
of them-
number on
one of the, sandwich signs out front.
Yeah.
We'll be trimming trees along the sidewalk.
Yeah, and if you have questions,
Call. Yeah.
So what is the plan for notifying residents?
Well, we talked about it this morning and, short of mailing something to every house, which is not an easy thing to
Feasible.
do. It's time consuming and there's a cash thing involved, the postage. The social media, Front Porch Forum, Facebook and Instagram.
Does Bruce have a PA on his cruiser? He could just drive around town and tell him we're gonna be cutting trees.
Can we also post, like, do we
sign out
still
front.
post at Shaw's or a sign out front or something?
a sign
You
out,
just
yeah.
mentioned the
Yeah.
sign up
Same
front.
sign on it.
Sandwich sign,
Okay,
that would be good.
that would be
Yeah.
good. 'cause
Let
then
people
it's-
see
Yep.
that.
Here. Cut all the trees on my sidewalk you want on my street, go ahead. Okay, I know Pine Street residents that trim them all on the sidewalks. Never
I know
said-
that people love their trees, so we definitely want to make sure
Right.
that we
Well,
alert them. Otherwise, they'll come out and yell at you. if you drive
Oh,
by.
that's the thing, it's normal. If you go out and do it for a sidewalk with the tractor every year, and you always get at least 4 or 5 that
Are upset.
are upset
Too bad.
Right,
all the time.
so that, so if we can say we notified you, you know.
I mean, the problem is that if you don't
But
cut
we
it
can
back,
do the right thing.
Right, I know that, but if you,
it's better to cut it back
See.
nicely than take the sidewalk plow that just breaks them.
Yeah,
Anything
so
else?
first week of September,
that's the first, that's the tentative thing right now.
Target.
okay.
Target date.
Yeah, just, you know where Mike lives, Helen?
Who?
Mike, Helen, across the road from us, the next house
Oh,
down.
yeah.
She's got a tree, we were gonna take it out, John and I were gonna cut it, we just haven't gotten to it, but there is a tree that's been over, just off the edge of the road, or in the edge of the road. If I get to it before you do, I'll cut it.
You gotta get,
You know.
you gotta get a
Put a
right,
ribbon on it.
you gotta put a work, get a,
Well, it's on
working a
Helen's
right away
property,
permit. Michelle, you gotta get a working
I
right
won't
away.
be working in the right of way, I'll be working on
The edge of the road,
No,
if it's in the road.
I'll be in her lawn, because that's where
Oh,
the trunk is.
Oh, that's where it is back up,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else, Michelle? I guess.
No, I'm good.
Peter?
Not that I think of right off the end.
All right, I don't have anything for here for right now. Valerie,
Can I ask, who did the blocks? Peter did? Or
802.
Sharon did?
802.
Yeah, I was commenting.
I didn't realize that we were doing it. I mean, I know we had talked about it, but I didn't realize it was gonna get done.
that's all, big deal.
That's what I got told to do. Or,
By the state or by us?
no, by your engineering firm.
Uh-huh.
You want me to get into?
Well, I knew
No.
they had recommended, I
Go
knew they had
for it.
recommended that, but I just didn't know we
Go
had.
ahead.
Well, when we discussed it, it seemed like there was some consensus that that something needed to be done for public safety. And we're expecting that some aspect of it will be reimbursed through FEMA, whether it's through the July last year storm, or if the declaration from this past July passes through,
Yes, I know.
that we'll get it through there.
You put a block on the wrong side of the road, it should have been down the river, go further up.
Right?
Cash. Valerie, anything else?
Oh, yeah. Haven't even started. Just want to note a correction in my tier report on my schedule for next week. I'm gonna swap the working from home from Tuesday to Wednesday, because it turns out I have an appointment in Waitsfield that day, so, and some other things going on, so I'll just work from home that day and be in on Tuesday. And just give you an update that a lot of energy, a lot of effort is happening toward updating the local hazard mitigation plan. It's currently expired. It expired in January, and we have a grant. We're working with a consultant to help us update it, and we're in a particular grace period right now. But because of the storm from last month, if we do get an emergency declaration, and if we have any intention of applying for public assistance as a result of that, then we would need to submit this updated plan to Vermont Emergency Management within 30 days of the date of the declaration. So there's increasing time pressure to wrap this up, and we're meeting again on next Wednesday, and as the committee, and my thinking is to schedule a public meeting. I'm calling it a public hearing, but a public meeting to make the draft plan available to the public and get public comment on it as part of that process. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that. And yeah, it's just been a lot of stuff going on. So
do we think we qualify for?
I don't know. For the one in July, I don't know.
I had the hearing for the, what were we doing?
Oh,
Regs.
Yeah,
Zoning,
yes.
that's next.
Right,
September.
yes, so on one of the items, so the next meeting agenda is going to be another, well, heftier than tonight. And one of the topics I hope we can cover is when to have the public hearing for the zoning regs. And what is it that we're actually going to be advertising for the public hearing?
Well, yeah, because we have to have it in at a certain time for it to be put on the ballot, or it's gonna be a hand count.
Right, so it's not going to, it'll already be a hand count for the November ballot, so we have until October.
October, yeah, I knew
Yeah.
that, but she
Yeah.
had given a different date if we actually wanted it on the ballot without it being a hand. Is that
Yeah,
what it- I don't remember the dates, but I remember that
Soon.
October was the one
Yeah.
for hand count.
yes,
so.
and,
Okay.
and she explained to me that hand count would actually be a better
Better.
option
Mhm.
in this case, because trying to put it on the other ballot, it's expensive and there could introduce some other
Mhm.
complications.
Mhm.
So we'll aim for that, for sometime in October is that deadline, so we should be aiming for sometime in September for the public hearing. So my thinking is for the next agenda, just to review.
We got the memo yet?
I think so.
Okay.
What's that?
The memo from the planning commission.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I gotta look at it.
yeah, I just, yeah.
it's pretty minimal.
Yeah, so I just
Yeah,
want
just
to make
wanna
sure
check
that we're
with
clear on what edits we're actually going to be making to make the public hearing about.
Mhm.
So that's all.
Okay,
Hopefully that'll be a pretty quick agenda.
anything else?
Oh, that'll do it.
Okay.
Regarding the meetings, are we gonna stick to the set time of 7? It seems to be we're doing 6:30 for all of these meetings. Is that officially changed? Or can we go back to 7?
At the previous meeting, there was a discussion about that, and for the foreseeable future, you decided 6:30.
Oh, okay. I thought we talked about that when
We decided, we talked about making it consistent so that
Right.
Michelle could be here on time.
Yeah.
No, you had brought up the consistency like a meeting before,
Right.
and then it came to a head and we discussed starting at 6:30,
Okay,
provided. And you said that your children weren't a problem.
yeah, no, it's fine. I wanna make sure, I just wanted to confirm that, because I know you talked about doing it at 6 if we were going into budgeting and stuff like that,
When-
so.
Yeah.
Well, we
can
change it when we get to
If
that.
we, you know,
Okay.
I'm sensitive to Peter's needs, you know,
Yeah, I'll be gone hunting for, so do.
well, no,
do
and
budget
his
first.
pit's open till 5.
No.
Okay, so I just wanna make sure I change it on my calendar, so I'm not surprised.
And when things start to lighten up again, then we
Right.
can
Then
reevaluate.
In 2007.
Well, I mean, you know, if 6:30 works, then we're out and things lighten
Sure.
up, we're out of here at a decent hour.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's-
2.5, 3 hours is plenty long to be here.
No matter what time you start.
Still 9 o'clock before we get out.
It's fine if you keep people to stay on focus. When you start getting the tangents, that's when you have the problem.
Anything else, Alan?
That'll do it.
Okay, any correspondence reports or received?
Nothing to
business?
add,
Okay, we have an executive session.
very quick.
I
Michelle, you
make a
wanna-
motion, we enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters per 1 VSA section 313.
We are.
Second.
Okay, is
Can
motion
we
second?
vote?
All in favor, going executive session?
Aye.
Opposed?
Good night, Jimmy.
And Jimmy, I want to thank you you do attend all the meetings and all the planning commission, all those.
It's the only way you know what's going on. right?
Well, it's gotta be
You
cheaper
got a
than
feel
cable,
on it.
right? It's gotta be cheaper than cable.
He does know how to get out of Bristol because I saw him wandering around at the field base.
I need a map though, but I don't know from home that
How to get home?
I. Okay, guys.
Thanks, Jimmy.
I'm impressed, the state.